Hi, this is Fish and welcome to Fish Picks. One of the great things about having a relatively new channel is that you get to enjoy a lot of firsts, and today I'll be sharing my first unboxing video. So if you'd like to know who sent this and what's inside, then stay tuned. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching an upload on Chris Capoon's channel in which he was demonstrating his use of a homebrew tensioning tool which looked really effective. I reached out to see if these were commercially available, which they aren't, but Chris kindly offered to make a couple up and send them to me as a gift. So you can imagine my surprise when the postman delivered a package that was both bigger and heavier than I was expecting. Sure enough, there were two of these picks inside, along with a neat little key fob made from paracord, and I'll come back to the wrenches in a while, but there was so much more waiting to be unwrapped besides. Now, Chris had asked me if there was any lock brand that I was struggling to get hold of in the UK, and I had mentioned that I'd heard good things about the feedback afforded by the basic Brinks range, which supposedly make them ideal locks for those like me who are just starting out in Locksport. And sure enough, he had come up trumps and sourced a 50mm laminated padlock for me to have a play with. This one looks like it's paid good service in the world and shows signs of wear and tear, so it'll be interesting to see how smooth the internal mechanism is. The next item out of the box looked like that lock's little brother. A brand new, shiny 40mm laminated padlock with a key which functions perfectly. But there was also a third Brinks lock. This one is 50mm and machined in brass with a chrome-plated steel shackle. A little research suggests that this one has 5 pins while the other two are 4-pin designs. This also came without a key, so when I come to pick this and the 50mm laminated lock, I'll have no idea about the bitting involved, which adds a dimension of challenge I'm really excited about. Next out of the box we have this beautiful vintage design Masterlock 77D. I believe the original model was first manufactured in the 1930s and had detailing on the side of a profile of the lion's body, while those made afterwards, like this one, come with a front-facing lion's head on the lock. It's hard to quite know how old this is. I assumed at first that this was a reproduction of the original mid-20th century design because the packaging is in pristine condition, but there's no barcode, which suggests this might be older than it seems. Locknoob opened one of these on his channel a while back, but in his case there was a plastic moulded bubble casing and a barcode, which indicated that it was manufactured at least post-1980, so who knows? If any of you have any idea how I can determine the age of this lock, I'd definitely be interested, so please leave a comment. The packaging on this next lock is, of course, iconic. Here we have an American 1100, this one sporting a beautiful antique copper casing. Now, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that the 1100 series is currently proving to be my kryptonite. I now have 4 of these beautiful locks, and everyone tells me they're great to pick and how they're amongst their favourite locks. I see pickers on other channels popping them open in under a minute, and so far I've had no success whatsoever. In fact, I went as far as to pick up a Lishi 2-in-1 decoder for the American Keyway in an effort to use that as a tool to help me better understand how to pick them. And I can't even open them with that, so who knows? Perhaps this handsome lock will be the one which will allow me to finally pop my 1100 cherry. I'll be sure to let you know. The final lock in Chris's care package is the Piece de Resistance, an all-brass cylinder US American service lock which has quite a heft to it. My understanding is that these are typically government-issue locks and are made in brass because they're rust-resistant and will produce no sparks if dropped or struck against other metal surfaces, making them perfect on ships and around other military facilities where flammable vapours might be present. They're often issued with an attached chain to prevent drop damage, which can be a problem given the relatively soft nature of brass. The fact that the shackle is also brass reflects that they are made to be easily cut away if the key is lost or the lock mechanism is damaged, so that access to critical areas isn't denied in an emergency situation. Chris even added an envelope with a couple of stickers and business cards featuring his iconic branding and Suki. surely the most famous cat in the Locksport community. In fact, during the unboxing I noticed a couple of Suki's hairs had snuck into the packaging along the way. So, having opened this treasure trove of gifts, it would seem rude not to try and use these new tension wrenches with a few of the locks that Chris sent. I decided to focus on the Brinks range, starting with the smaller 40mm laminated lock. The smaller of the two wrenches fit perfectly into the top of the keyway and it felt really comfortable in the hand. I initially tried with a short hook, but after about 5 minutes I seemed to be getting nowhere, a consequence I suspect of the low cut at the front of the key. So I switched to a deforest half diamond from my Euro Valerian set by Lock Tools, which would allow me to reach under and past the front pin to reach those in the rear. I noticed when I tested the key that the release spring on the shackle for this model is really strong, which could mean that I might also miss when I had secured an open. So now and again I pulsed the wrench a little more firmly and looked for more play in the core. And sure enough, I got an open on this one in a relatively short order soon afterwards. Then it was time to face off against his older brother. I used the same wrench, but this time decided to change up the pick just to get a different picking experience. So I switched for the monkey paw from Sparrows. And surprisingly enough, this one seemed to fall more easily than the first, even though the lock mechanism felt as if it might benefit from some TLC and lubrication. Finally, I had to go with the 50mm brass lock. Knowing that this had 5 pin stacks and I had no key, I decided to return to the deforest or reach half diamond. This time I could tell that a much more gentle touch was needed to feel the feedback being offered, so I eased off accordingly and worked my way up and down the core, feeling a series of much more subtle clicks as I moved each of the pins in turn to the shear line and sought the open. It remains only to say a huge thank you to Chris Capoon for his generosity, and I'd also like to thank you for continuing to support this channel so enthusiastically. I'm doing my best to respond to every comment, and every subscription I earn or like that you leave me lets me know that I'm heading in the right direction. So until next time, thank you and take good care.